May 1st is International Workers' Day, and I thought I'd say a few words about the history of International Workers' Day, or May Day, as it's also known, and show you how it was kind of celebrated around the world, and particularly in France. So here's a video that we put together on In Context. There you go. There's a firefighters in France.
Un abrazo hasta allá. Contanos qué quieres.
So let's start with the history of it, right? International Workers' Day. Why was May the 1st chosen as this date? It's kind of ironic because it's based on something that happened in the United States. It's based on something that happened in the United States, and yet for some reason it's not celebrated in the United States. I wonder why. So I put together a little thread for you guys yesterday. This was on Twitter. There you go. The Haymarket Massacre of 1886. That happened not exactly on May 1st. I think it might have been a day or two after, but nevertheless, the beginning of the month was chosen for that. So, you had workers. These are workers in Chicago who were having their wages cut. They protested against that, and then somebody planted a bomb and killed 60 police. And, the police kind of just started rounding up anybody and everybody who had anything to do with the labor movement, and they even executed some of them. Right, they were hanged. I'm not quite sure if they even had anything to do with this. It didn't really matter. That was reason enough for them to start attacking the worker movement and the labor movement. And so, interestingly enough, May 1st in most countries around the world is celebrated as International Workers' Day. Some of them have it as an official holiday, but it doesn't really matter whether they have it as an official national holiday or not, because you're going to have people out in the streets anyway. Okay, anyway. And now, interestingly enough, in the United States, they don't celebrate it on May the 1st. They don't celebrate it at all. Do you know why? Because they saw it in America as being the International Workers' Day. They saw it as some kind of arm or tentacle of the communist, octopus over there in Russia, right? And then if you allowed this, that you would somehow be promoting communism, which is ridiculous. I mean, of course, it has roots in that ideology, but many people who are not communists also celebrate it, because guess what? They're workers. It's nevertheless, this is the Cold War, McCarthyist American thinking. And to really drive this point home, what they did is they made an official holiday. The Americans made an official holiday on May 1st to try and squash International Workers' Day. And this holiday is called Loyalty Day. And what do you celebrate on Loyalty Day? You celebrate your loyalty to the United States. That's it. Wow. I mean, talk about jingoism, right? That's it. It's your loyalty to the United States. I'm not sure it's quite popular, but in any case, this is the petty kind of thinking, this ridiculous, childish thinking, that nevertheless, helped drive the Cold War. And so they signed in Loyalty Day as a national holiday in America on May 1st to squash May Day or International Workers' Day. Now, to replace that, there is Labor Day in America, but that's celebrated several months later. Nobody across the planet gives a shit because it's not valid or relevant. It's May 1. It's May the 1st, May 1. Okay, everybody everywhere knows this. And you do have still to this day people in America who celebrate it on May 1st, even though it's not official. You know, as I noted in my thread on here, another very, very important tool to attack workers and destroy unions, because workers and unions are not only the ones driving the economy, but of course they're the ones who are celebrated on this particular day. This tool is called the Taft-Hartley Act. Taft-Hartley are two members of Congress at the time, and they even though this was a Republican proposition, most of the Democrats voted for it because they supported it. And do you know what this thing does? It basically it's still a law to this day. If you want to join a union in the United States, you need to say that you're not a communist. That's one thing. Okay, so I mean, this is very, very clearly targeted, right? But it gets worse. It gets worse. Because that's just the pettiness. Another consequence of the Taft-Hartley Act is that if you have a protest, okay, or a strike, everybody concerned by that strike, everybody who's concerned in that strike will gain concessions. So if, for example, the workers go on strike because they want a longer lunchtime break, and then the authorities say, okay, you can have a longer lunchtime break, they all get it. All the workers get it in this field. Now you're sitting there and you're thinking, Richie, why is that a bad thing? If everybody gets it and all the workers benefit from this concession, that's a good thing, right? Yes, it is. But here's the thing. That's not the way that average people think about it. A lot of people, I'm not saying most, but a lot of people are thinking to themselves, well, shit, if I go on strike, my boss is going to know that I was on strike, that I didn't show up for work. And they're going to resent me. They're not going to like me. I might not get a promotion. You know, there's a promotion I'm eyeing. I might not get it. I might not get that raise I wanted. I might get in trouble. I might get fired. These are questions that everybody who goes on strike thinks about. Everybody. And so now you're thinking, well, why should I go on strike? Because if my colleagues go on strike and they manage to get and extract concessions from my boss, and he does give us longer breaks or a higher pay, I'm going to get it anyway, even if I didn't go on strike. Right? Guess what happens? Exactly that. Since 1960, the union membership has literally been cut in half in America. Cut in half. So it went from around 31% down to less than 15%. So more than cut in half. Because people are thinking themselves, why the hell should I join a union? If the guys, my colleagues who are in a union want to strike, okay, I'm not going to strike. That way I don't get in trouble. And if they win, I also get concessions. That's the people who engineered this, Taft and Hartley, are not stupid. And they got exactly what they wanted, which is to destroy union membership. I mean, that is really just sad. That is sad. Yeah. Cut in half. Cut in half. That is extraordinary. I said this in my thread. I'm not saying this to make you feel like hopeless or something, but and when you look at this, you shouldn't look at this and feel devastated or disappointed. But it should be a reminder that a lot of people do care, and most of the world, they celebrate May 1st as International Workers' Day, and that's why I'm raising this point, because I've talked about this before, but I wanted to kind of bring this back to refresh your memories and remind you that a lot of people do care, and a lot of people are waking up and seeing what is happening. That, okay, during this whole pandemic, did anybody gain any concessions? The only people who got richer are the billionaires and the corporations. They doubled their wealth. There was an entire transfer of wealth of trillions to the corporations. And yet, if you're a worker in America, you're still, what is minimum wage? $7.25. So how does any of this make sense? Because the average worker has become more productive in the last couple of decades because of computers, because of all sorts of changes that just result in more worker efficiency, right? It's not just because of computers. It's just workers are more efficient. That's a fact. It's something that you can look at in graphs, in numbers. It's quantifiable, right? It's measured. It's a scientific fact. The average worker is more productive and more efficient today than, several times more efficient than a couple decades ago. But why haven't the wages gone up, right, in tandem with the efficiency rate and quota? Why? Right? If I can produce 10 wooden frames for you in an hour and I get paid $6, why shouldn't you pay me $60 if I can make you 100 frames an hour? Right? I'm making you 10 times more wooden frames, you pay me 10 times more. Right? It's a basic fucking transaction. This is the simplest crap. This, people in the goddamn Stone Age were able to grasp this concept. It's very simple. But no, not in capitalism. Not in capitalism. You see, capitalism is basically the feudal system, but with another name, right? So instead of lord and serf, you had slavery after that, and during that with actually, let's start with slavery since that's the oldest one. You had slave and master, and then they turned it into serf and lord. So the master became the lord, and the slave became the serf, and then after that, the serf became the employee, and then the lord became or the master became the employer. Same thing, man. Different names, same thing. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean that if you work in an office building or whatever, that you're the equivalent of a slave. No one is saying that. This is called an analogy. This is what you call an analogy, right? So the dynamic, the relationship, the inequality between these two roles is similar, of similar value. And if not of similar value, it's of similar concept, right? This is why it's an analogy. Okay? The fact that somebody who works as an employee is in better conditions than a slave doesn't mean that you should still treat them like shit. You can still give them more money because they're doing more work for you, right? Isn't that the basis of the relationship? No. Because so now you're getting screwed from the companies who refuse to pay you more, and you're getting screwed by the economy, where the government, instead of stepping in to help you, is making it a law that your minimum wage stays down. So they're not keeping your employer in check. They're actually helping your employer. And then on top of it, the governments are allowing these corporations to go wild and do whatever they want. And then, of course, they need to, they're the ones who have come bail them out, but not you. And so, your purchasing power is staying the same, if not going down, right? So in every way imaginable, the corporations and the government work together to enrich each other through corruption, and as a consequence, they do everything to screw the worker. They screw unions like the Taft-Hartley Act, right? They give all the money. They always bail out the corporations, whether it's in 2008 or it's in 2020. Everything that we can do for this big tech, or whether it's big oil or whether it's big pharma, it doesn't matter. They'll do it. Revolving door, baby. All right. So I just thought I'd raise this point because this is really emblematic of how disgusting the effort has been in the United States to villainize the worker, vilify the labor movement, and to make it seem like giving a crap about your dignity and your colleagues' dignity and your wages makes you somehow a communist, and that being a communist makes you scum. These things have literally nothing to do with each other. If communism had never existed, you would still be in the same shit because they'd find some other scapegoat for it. I mean, it's obscene. It's really something that beggars belief. The funny thing is that, I just explained to you earlier with my basic example that the relationship, no one is even asking for it to be changed. They're asking for it to stay the same, right? You're saying, I'm going to produce more, so pay me more. That actually could work under capitalism, but not really, right? Because this basic idea of I produce more, you pay me more doesn't work under capitalism. It maybe it works in their la la land and their utopias, but in reality you can see what capitalism has done. You can see that it is just basically a continuation of the same relationship, that you have a tiny powerful elite that shit on everybody. And it's so funny to me because when I hear or see sometimes people describe communism, it's actually a literal definition of capitalism, right? And I'm not even a communist, right? Like, it's so funny to me, right? They say, those communists, they control everything. The state controls everything. They run everything, and they basically use everybody to make themselves rich. Dude, you're literally describing capitalism. This is late stage capitalism, like to a T. To a T. I don't even know what you're talking about.